Today, I'm revealing the 24-hour fat-burning protocol that specifically targets menopause belly fat. 2 simple recipes, a morning jar and a bedtime drink, built from a handful of real ingredients you already know. This is the exact protocol that forces your body to exit storage mode in days, not months. We're starting with the morning jar because that's where most of the work gets done. Then the bedtime drink locks it in overnight. One of the ingredients mimics a $1,000 injection and is sitting in your kitchen right now. Most women see their belly moving within 14 days. Stick with me until the end and I'll show you exactly why. I'm Claudia. I'm a licensed health psychologist, and I spent 20 years researching women's hormones. The first one is a simple overnight jar you build in 4 minutes before bed. The base is 3 things: full-fat Greek yogurt, ground flaxseed, and one specific fiber that works as nature's Ozempic. Then we add 2 small boosters that seal the whole thing together. It sits in your fridge all night, and by morning, it's thick, creamy, and ready to eat. You drop some berries on top, and you're done. 33 grams of protein and 14 grams of fiber, shutting down fat storage before it even starts. The second one is a bedtime mocktail you sip 45 minutes before lights out. Tart cherry juice, magnesium glycinate, and sparkling water with a squeeze of lime. It looks like a cocktail, tastes like one, and replaces the nightly glass of wine that's been quietly destroying your sleep and your waistline. 45 minutes later, your cortisol drops, your sleep deepens, and your body starts burning fat overnight instead of storing it. Now that you know what these 2 are, let me show you why you actually need them. Let's start with what's happening in your body every single morning. The second you eat that toast, or a banana, or even that bowl of oatmeal you think is protecting you, your blood sugar spikes. Insulin rushes in to deal with the mess, and this is where it gets weird. High insulin acts like a locked vault. It doesn't just manage your sugar, it blocks fat burning completely. Your body physically cannot burn stored fat when insulin is high, and it actually gets worse. By the time that insulin spikes in the morning, your cortisol is already climbing because it naturally peaks in the early hours as your body's built-in wake-up signal. So now you've got high cortisol, rising insulin resistance, and high insulin hitting you at the same time before 10 a.m. And that combination is the exact hormonal environment visceral fat loves most. One thing before we move on. Everything I share on this channel, the nutrition, the training, the tracking, it all lives inside my Fit Over 40 community. I put together a complete personal program, diet, workouts, trackers. Visceral fat isn't like the soft stuff you can pinch. It's deeper, sitting behind your abdominal wall and wrapped around your organs. And it's not just sitting there quietly. It's an uninvited tenant that's stealing your estrogen, pumping out inflammatory chemicals, and feeding on every insulin spike your breakfast provides. Every morning you eat the wrong thing, you are literally paying rent for something that's destroying you from the inside. It's time to serve an eviction notice, and in a minute, I'll give you the exact tool that does it. After 50, you're losing 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every decade. This process is called sarcopenia, and a high-carb breakfast speeds it up because your body starts pulling amino acids away from your muscles to stabilize your blood sugar instead of rebuilding your tissue. You're gaining fat and losing muscle at the same time, and your healthy breakfast is the one driving both. This is why menopause weight loss feels impossible. You are fighting your own breakfast. By 10 a.m., you're starving again and feeling weak, so you start reaching for something sweet. Your body is screaming for glucose because it crashed hard after that morning insulin spike. That craving is just a symptom, not a character flaw. Here is what nobody is telling you. There is one specific ingredient that acts as a natural off switch for this entire cycle. It shuts down the storage signal and kills cravings before they even start, and it does it through the same biological mechanism as Ozempic without the actual drug. You can prep it in 4 minutes the night before, let it sit in a jar in your fridge, and by tomorrow morning, it starts rewriting what your hormones do all day. We're talking 33 grams of protein and 14 grams of soluble fiber to keep your blood sugar flat all morning, no mid-morning cravings, and visceral fat that starts shrinking within 2 weeks. This is the jar. It turns into a thick, heavy gel in seconds, right there in your hand. That is exactly what's happening inside your gut while you go about your morning. It's not a supplement that dissolves and disappears. It's a physical thing, sitting there slowing everything down and triggering your hunger hormones to shut off. You can actually see why it works before you ever swallow a single bite. Now let's talk about the flaxseed. 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed contain lignans, which are plant compounds that gently bind to your estrogen receptors to partially compensate for the estrogen your body stopped producing in perimenopause and beyond. They aren't replacing your estrogen or your progesterone. They act more like a soft signal that keeps those receptors from going completely dark. Flaxseed also adds insoluble fiber on top of the soluble fiber from the psyllium, and that combination keeps the gut physically moving so things don't get backed up. A sluggish gut isn't just uncomfortable, it actually recirculates estrogen metabolites and holds onto water weight and bloat that looks like belly fat even when it isn't. The Greek yogurt is doing something completely different. It's a source of casein protein, and casein digests incredibly slowly. Whey protein gets absorbed and cleared by hour 2, but casein is still releasing amino acids into your bloodstream at hour 4 and 5. Think of it as a metabolic bodyguard standing over your muscle tissue, feeding it 1 amino acid at a time so menopause can't touch it. And I'm not just talking about numbers on a chart. I'm talking about that moment when you try to carry groceries in from the car and realize you're just not as strong as you were 5 years ago. That's not getting older. That's what muscle loss feels like in real life. And the casein in this jar is how we stop it. Now, there's a catch with the next ingredient. If you grab the bottle most people have sitting in their spice rack right now, you might actually be doing nothing for your blood sugar. There are 2 types of this spice, and only one of them has the clinical power we're looking for. Ceylon cinnamon, and it has to be Ceylon specifically, acts as a natural insulin sensitizer that reverses some of the insulin resistance that builds up after menopause. It keeps the morning glucose curve flat instead of letting it crest, and while half a teaspoon sounds small, the effect it has on your post-meal glucose is massive. And then there's the collagen peptides, which is the piece most people overlook completely. Collagen supports the gut lining, and when that lining is compromised, a condition called intestinal permeability sets in and disrupts how your body metabolizes estrogen. Poor estrogen metabolism directly worsens belly fat storage in postmenopausal women. So the collagen isn't just about your joints or skin, it's actually closing the loop between gut health and hormonal fat storage. Now that you understand the biological why, you can see that this isn't just a random bowl of food, it's a precision tool. And because it's a tool, you have to build it exactly right to get the results. I'm going to walk you through the main recipe using Greek yogurt first, and then right after that, I'll give you a specific dairy-free swap that keeps every single fat-burning signal intact. Here's exactly how you build it. The night before, grab a mason jar or any wide-mouth jar that does the job and add 1 cup of plain, full-fat Greek yogurt. Make sure it's full-fat, not low-fat or 0%, because the fat slows digestion further and keeps those casein amino acids releasing even longer. Then add 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed, and it must be ground because whole flaxseed passes right through you without releasing any of those lignans. Toss in 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk powder, 1 scoop of unflavored collagen peptides, and half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Check the label to make sure it says Ceylon and not cassia. They're actually different plants with very different effects on your blood sugar. Stir everything together directly in the jar. seal it up, and put it in the fridge. That's it. That's the 4 minutes of work, and you're done until morning. Overnight, something useful happens as the psyllium absorbs moisture from the yogurt, and the whole mixture thickens into a pudding-like texture. It becomes dense and filling, almost like eating something that takes real effort to get through, which is exactly what you want. The physical texture slows down how fast you consume it and gives your gut signals more time to reach your brain before you're tempted to grab something else. In the morning, pull the jar out of the fridge and add half a cup of mixed berries on top. Blueberries, raspberries, or strawberries all work. Berries work here because they come pre-packaged with their own fiber, unlike bread or cereal where you're adding fiber on top of processed grain. The fiber surrounds the natural sugar so it absorbs slowly and you get the sweetness without the spike. This is why berries are the only fruit I recommend for this jar. If you're going to give your body the protein and fiber it needs to flatten blood sugar and shut down the storage signal, you want to do it while cortisol is still on its way down. If you wait until it's been high for 3 hours with nothing to anchor it, you're basically late to your own hormonal conversation. Here is where this usually goes wrong before women ever give it a real shot. If you're dairy sensitive, use full-fat coconut yogurt instead. If it's too thin, strain it overnight through a cheesecloth to get it to that same thick consistency as Greek yogurt. The casein protein won't be there, so add an extra half scoop of collagen peptides and maybe a pea protein powder to close the gap. Same result, different vehicle. If psyllium husk has ever made you bloated or gassy before, that's not a reason to avoid it. It's actually a sign your gut microbiome needs time to adjust to the increase in soluble fiber. Start with half a tablespoon for the first week and move to 1 full tablespoon in week 2. Your gut bacteria are just adapting to a new fuel source, and if you rush that process, your body fights back with gas. Slow the ramp and keep going. And if you're sitting there thinking you have no time in the morning, remember that you prepped it last night and it's already sitting in your fridge. You pull it out, add berries, and eat it, about 30 seconds of active effort. If that's still too much, make 2 or 3 jars at once on Sunday evening to set up the whole week. There are no more logistical reasons to skip this. And the part most women get wrong, don't try this for 3 days, decide the scale hasn't moved and quit. Because here's what actually happens inside your body. The soluble fiber needs time to accumulate in your gut, your microbiome needs to shift, and visceral fat only responds to consistent pressure. 14 days is the window, not 7, not 3. If you quit on day 10, you just wasted the first 9. Most women who stop early were just a few days away from seeing real change in their waistline, and they didn't know it. Give me 14 consecutive mornings before you decide whether this is working. That is the deal. If this is already making more sense than any diet advice you've heard in the last decade, tap the like button right now. It tells YouTube to show this to more women over 50 who are fighting the same fight you are. It costs you nothing, and it keeps this kind of content coming. This isn't just about 2 separate recipes. It's about a 24-hour loop. The jar stops you from feeding that visceral fat during the day, but there is a specific window during deep sleep, between midnight and 4 a.m., when it is actually most vulnerable to being burned off. And the only way to hit that window is if you drink the right thing before bed. You know that feeling when you wake up at exactly 2 a.m. and you just can't get back down? Maybe with hot flashes, maybe with your heart pounding, maybe just wide awake for no reason. That isn't just stress. It's a specific hormonal glitch caused by a drop in one chemical that most doctors rarely test for. When perimenopause starts and your estrogen levels drop, your melatonin levels drop right along with them because those two are connected way more tightly than people realize. And when that melatonin falls off a cliff, your cortisol doesn't get the signal to quiet down at night like it's supposed to. So instead of your stress hormones tapering off as you wind down for bed, they stay elevated, and you end up lying there with your thoughts racing, completely wired and completely exhausted at the same time. That is the wired but tired trap. And after 5 hours of that broken half sleep, you just give up and call it a night.
It matters for belly fat in a very specific, very frustrating way. Human growth hormone is the main driver for burning fat while you sleep, but it only releases when you are in a deep sleep state. It doesn't happen during light sleep, and it definitely doesn't happen during that fragmented half sleep that most menopausal women are stuck in every night. When your cortisol is high at night, it basically chokes out your growth hormone release, so your body isn't burning fat while you rest, it's actually storing it. Your belly grows while you sleep, and then that jar you ate in the morning has to spend the whole day fighting a hormone that has been climbing all night with nothing to stop it. Most women know this exhausted feeling, and let's be honest, most of us reach for a glass of wine to try and fix it. You just want one drink to take the edge off so you can finally relax. But alcohol actually raises your cortisol and breaks apart your sleep architecture. Plus, it directly feeds fat storage through a metabolic pathway that has nothing to do with how many calories are in the glass. The wine feels like it's giving you relief, but biologically, it is doing the exact opposite of what you need. So here's exactly how to fix this with one drink that uses 2 power ingredients plus 2 simple mixers, and it takes about 45 minutes to work. First, we use Montmorency tart cherry juice, which is one of the only foods on the planet that has naturally occurring, measurable melatonin. This isn't some loose wellness claim someone made up on the internet. 35 micrograms for every 100 grams of juice. That is actual melatonin sitting in a glass, not a synthetic pill or a supplement that might not even have what the label says. It tells your brain that it is time to drop the cortisol and get ready for deep sleep, using the exact same pathways your body already knows how to use. The second ingredient is where so many women wreck this protocol on night 1, and I need to give you the one word that saves your morning before I give you the recipe. They buy the right mineral, but the wrong version. If you see citrate or oxide on that bottle, put it back on the shelf. The word you are looking for is glycinate. Magnesium glycinate absorbs cleanly, crosses the blood-brain barrier to calm the stress signal in your brain, and leaves your gut completely alone. No mess, no emergency, just sleep. Research from clinical endocrinology in 2020 connects magnesium directly to how your body regulates cortisol at night, and postmenopausal women are almost always the most deficient. 1.5 teaspoons of magnesium glycinate powder starts unwinding the cortisol spike that has been keeping you awake and storing fat. The 2 mixers are simple, but they matter. The sparkling water gives you the mouthfeel of a cocktail, so your brain actually registers it as your evening drink, not a supplement. And a squeeze of fresh lime cuts the tartness and makes the whole thing taste like something you actually want to drink every night, not a chore. This is how you replace the wine for good, because if it doesn't feel like an evening ritual, you won't stick with it past week 1. Here is the recipe. Take a 1/4 cup of unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice. Check the label to make sure it says Montmorency and has no added sugar. Add 1.5 teaspoons of magnesium glycinate powder and 10 ounces of plain sparkling water. Squeeze in some fresh lime, stir it up, and drink the whole thing 45 minutes before you turn the lights out every night. If sparkling water bothers your stomach at night or triggers reflux, use plain still water. The active ingredients work exactly the same way. Let's look at the big picture of what you are actually building here. When you put these 2 together, you're doing something very few women over 50 ever achieve. You're squeezing that visceral fat from both ends of the clock, leaving it nowhere to hide. The mocktail goes in at night, and that tart cherry melatonin tells your cortisol to finally stand down. The magnesium glycinate clears out that residual stress signal that menopause left running in the background of your brain. Once that cortisol drops, deep sleep finally arrives, and your growth hormone gets the quiet environment it needs to do what it was designed for, which is pulling stored fat to use as fuel while you rest. Your body starts working for you through the night instead of fighting against you. Then the morning comes, and that jar is already waiting for you in the fridge.
You eat it within 90 minutes of waking up, and that psyllium gel goes to work the second it hits your stomach. Your GLP-1 rises, your hunger hormones drop, your insulin stays flat. Insulin resistance starts slowly reversing, and your body has absolutely no hormonal reason to store anything you eat. Those 33 grams of casein protein start repairing your muscle, and the fiber keeps that fat-burning signal running clean all the way through lunch. No crashes, no weird cravings pulling you toward the pantry for a snack. That is the loop. Overnight fat burning protected by the mocktail, and morning fat storage blocked by the jar.
There is no gap in the middle for it to recover. That gap is the part that matters most because it's what breaks every other diet or workout plan you've tried. Most strategies only look at one half of the day, but a healthy breakfast cannot undo 6 hours of broken, cortisol-flooded sleep, and a great night of sleep can't fix an insulin spike at 7 a.m. that locks your fat cells shut before the day even starts. You need both sides of the door closed, and that is what this combination does that nothing else in the menopause weight loss conversation actually addresses. Here is what you need to do starting tonight. Make the mocktail and drink it 45 minutes before bed. Every night, no skipping. Put the jar in the fridge before you go to sleep so it is ready to go when you wake up. Pull it out in the morning, toss in your berries, and eat it within 90 minutes of waking up. Give me 14 straight days without breaking either side of that loop. And I mean both of them, not just the one that sounds easier. Here's what to expect. Day 3, your sleep gets noticeably deeper. You stop waking up at 2 a.m. Day 5, the heavy bloating that's been sitting in your midsection starts to shift. Day 7, that mid-morning hunger you thought was just part of your personality is gone. Day 14, your waistline actually starts to change.